It's the power of the group, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I was harping so, maybe harshly in the beginning about people who were so negative in these groups and they should just leave, is that the power of the group should be positive. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the huge things about surrounding yourself with, great people, and that your group, your core, your team, the people you're around, like, they can tip the scale.
There he is.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, buddy.
Happy Thursday,
Had a
June
little
11th.
scare there, man.
I know. Hey, you know what? Sometimes we have those. You know what? It just lets us know that we're alive. And if you
Mm-hmm.
are alive and well, we appreciate you tuning in. It is June 11th, 2020. Welcome aboard Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 381.
381.
Sounds like a lot today.
Man, that's a lot. That's
I know.
381 hours of
It's more than that.
communication.
It's probably, taking the average, it's probably closer to 400, which is a lot of hours. That's a lot of listening to guys like you and I. So, if we don't say it enough, we appreciate you tuning in, and give yourself a pat on the back for having that much patience. Because I saw somebody in our closed we do have a closed group on Facebook. It's called Crushing Iron Group. If you want to hop in there, you can search it on Facebook, answer a simple question. We'll let you in. There are a lot of great people in there. But I saw somebody posting there. They had officially listened to every single episode that we've ever done.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, you have reached the Allie Bruce level, which is my wife, of
My
patience and
mom.
understanding and acceptance. Yeah, and your mom, it's like that's the ultimate level of patience. And so, hey, we appreciate it. We come to you every Monday and Thursday, and we have so for 3 years. And obviously, 381 podcasts, probably right up there with, yeah, about 400 hours of content, filled with everything. We cover triathlon basics. We cover some of the more in-depth aspects of the data and the specific training methods that our philosophy is kind of surrounded with in terms of swim, bike, run, nutrition, periodization, some of the finer tuned things that some athletes love and other athletes kind of think it's overwhelming. We cover also some of the general topics that I think are important. We have on, race directors. We have on the occasional athlete, the occasional guest, and do our own kind of race recaps and previews of events that we're very familiar with, that we've done tons of times. But for the most part, as both coaches and athletes ourselves, I've been doing this for a long time. We just try to have just an open conversation, fun, open dialogue with no agenda, no ads, no sponsors, and just try to do our best to articulate in a way that you can absorb the information and apply it to your life in a fun-filled fashion. And that's what we
Yeah,
do. And
we do.
speaking of guests, we will have on next Monday one of my favorite guests that we've ever had on. And I know that's not, it's like saying, like, you're the valedictorian of your homeschool class. We probably only had on like 6 guests in the entire
I know,
like
right?
80 episodes. And
He's
don't
one of
take
the
that.
6 favorites.
I know, right? Don't take that personally, Kenny. But we'll have on Ken Hammond on Monday. He's been on the podcast before. He is one of my favorite people in terms of race directors. He is, which is a 100% thankless job in my opinion. But we keep in touch, and he's listened to the podcast. He's actually in our closed Facebook group as well. All around great guy. He used to produce Syracuse 70.3, which is no longer with us, and then he now produces Ohio 70.3, and was going to put on and be the race director for the new Muscle Man race that was postponed, and they just put out deferral options for next year. And so I reached out to him earlier this week and then kind of confirmed things this morning, but told him we'd love to have him on. And, and not to do what I'm sure most people like to do, which is just badger RDs and make them seem like the bad people. And I did kind of send him like a message. I said, "Don't worry, man. I appreciate you coming on. We're just going to kind of lead off with, why is this all your fault?" And then we'll go from there. But in all seriousness, race directors it's a thankless job. I'm sure they get thanked a lot, but for the most part, all they hear about are your complaints. And I think one of the most important things that every athlete needs to understand is, especially when they work for a brand like Ironman, is that they are essentially the manager of a franchised location, right? So they can't just do whatever they want to do no matter what. They have to answer to the big wigs, and a lot of the decisions that you think that they make specifically, they probably don't make. They come way above because they're just like, a franchise, a manager at a franchise store or a location. You might think that everything they're doing is from them, but for the most part, they have to follow corporate guidelines. They have to follow, things that every other franchise location has to also adhere to across the board. And so for the most part, most of the things you probably see, it's not like when you get, I think they just got deferral options for Muscle Man. Those didn't just come straight from Kenny, the race director. They came from up top, in Ironman, and how they're trying to fill up other races and do the best they can. And so I just thought, given he's always fun to have on. He did, I think he's got probably one of our top 10 or 15 ever podcasts, in terms of downloads. With the first one he did with Ohio, he was excellent. He was an excellent guest. And when you and I went up to Ohio last year to watch the race, we had a bunch of athletes doing that. He was as courteous and on point as you can imagine. He took time out of his way, which is also kind of a tough day with things that happened there. But he's just a great guy, very intelligent, articulate, and he seemed to set up people in a very very good fashion to feel well prepared. So given all things life at the moment with the pandemic and with the races being closed and races being canceled, I thought it might be fun to have him on and kind of let him show some insight into what is really going on with racing and with how they kind of do their thing right now. So he'll be on next Monday. So be on the lookout for Kenny Hammond.
Yeah, you think he'll take us behind the curtain, man.
He did. Listen,
he did last year. I know.
Did. I mean, I have to give credit. I've got to give credit to him for being so open and honest. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of worry about with having people on. It's like, oh, well, they're just going to answer everything. They're going to take the Iron Man fifth, if you will. But he really did. He took us what I thought was behind the curtain in terms of really kind of shining, insight into, the political influence that a lot of these races have. Like everyone thinks it's up to just the race, and they don't think about all the other moving parts that go. And you could have I think he even went off into like, in election years, if there's a person in a seat, or it's a mayor, governor, or whatever that has, a huge influence in the endurance community that's very pro activity, that wants you people to get outside, like they're all for, having these events and putting the EMS and first responders and police, everything they need to make races happen. And then they might come out of that seat and somebody else might go in, and that person couldn't give less of a crap. And so they might think, well, you know what, your contract is expiring with the city. I'm not really worried about renewing it because I could care less about Ironman and triathlon. No matter what it does for the city, I've got my own agenda, and there it goes. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that you never hear. You never will never understand. We probably won't even see blips. You always hear rumors about this race is happening, this is not going to renew, and then all of a sudden it gets renewed. So he always does a really, really good job, and he does a great job of explaining things. It is if you've never done Ohio 70.3, and I'm sure things will be different this year, listening to his podcast that he did as a preview is better than any athlete guide reading and any pre-race athlete briefing. I fully, support going to those and reading that, but he did basically like a cover to cover breakdown of the course, and he goes behind the curtain. He's very open and honest, and I really appreciate that about him.
It'll be nice to get sort of a firsthand account of what's really going on there with these races, because Ironman's been sending out recommendations and theories and thoughts, and same with USAT, and there's a lot of ideas, and we've got so many things going on in our heads, but maybe you'll have a little bit more of a crystallization of the reality of how these races might be looking, which would be nice.
Yeah, it's hey, we could
speculate all we want.
Exactly, which is what people love to do, and it's just like, people, we'll move on to a more positive, open topic here in a minute, but it's people just seemed right now is just kind of giving everyone kind of a universal lightning rod to jump on in terms of telling people how irresponsible or terrible people they are, and why is this race happening when so many other races are getting or getting canceled. I just think it's so irresponsible, and you're like, listen, that's like the telling the Home Depot in your local city to not open because they're allowed to be open and make business and provide, and make revenue and provide jobs to employees just because the Home Depot in your city is closed. It's like it's the same thing. It's a business, and we all have choices. And so, hop off your high horse about basically everything. Be careful of all this. It's just like, come on, people.
Get
Like
everything high horse.
it is, man. It's just like, come on. It's just
I
do
know.
the
Can we
best.
just show each other grace, man? Let's just.
Seriously, man. It's like, God. I actually thought about that the other day on I don't know what. I was on my run. I think about the weirdest things, and um just everything going on in the world. And I remember thinking, like, basically it seems right now, and I hate this, it seems like everyone's reaction to anything is to either shame someone or affirm their own belief. And I'm like, can't there be some kind of a middle ground of acceptance and understanding? And obviously agree. Like, there are plenty of people out there. Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of people out there that, in my opinion, probably don't deserve acceptance and understanding in some ways, depending on what they believe. But I think a level of at least like having that as your overall, as we said, everyone has an agenda. Maybe your agenda should be acceptance and grace instead of only affirming the beliefs that you have, even if you probably have never questioned them, and then shaming everyone else for theirs. There's got to be a happy medium. And I made the gigantic mistake of hopping into the Ironman Muncie 70.3 Facebook page because I was interested. We have a lot of athletes racing, that, and so I do want to keep like a pulse on what's going on, especially with how things are going in terms of, I only hopped in there originally because they were going to have, allegedly they're going to have on, the actual race director for like a Q&A, and that got kiboshed. But I kind of wanted to keep a pulse on things. And then of course now it's all just like, you just see them as typical like triathlon Facebook groups go. You've got like no one in the gray. It is like straight black and white in terms of like people's opinions that you're basically, you shouldn't. Here, let me just say this. If you're not racing and you don't want to race it, then get off the Facebook page. Like, seriously, like, do you even have a purpose of being in there? If you're not racing it, you're not participating, you think it's a stupid idea, then why are you in there telling people that they shouldn't be racing? Get off, go somewhere else. It's like I don't go around and like and invite myself into Facebook groups that I have no interest in. Oh, I'll just hop in there and tell everybody how stupid they are for, cross stitching. Like that's not my thing. I stay out of it. If you don't have something positive to contribute, if you don't think it's a good idea, then kindly leave. Like I don't understand why people like just continuously will do that. And obviously it chaps me a little bit, but we can move on.
Well, I did. It's a good point. Like I always say, I feel like the truth is usually somewhere in the middle with most
Hmm.
things. It's like we can have extremes. There's a lot of coaches out there that probably think running fast a lot is the way to go. And there's some that think running slow all the time is the way to go. But it's probably somewhere in the middle. And same with everything. It's you can't go extreme one way or the other, and it's just the balance part of it is off. And I think most people tend to, like you're saying, settle somewhere in the middle ground. So I think it's applicable actually in a weird way, and I don't like it myself. It's like why do we have to? Because here's the other thing, right? Is that I would venture to say that most people make these extreme comments and have these strong opinions based on not real information most of the time.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just
You
saying,
think?
like the strongest, most outspoken people usually, it's almost, I don't know, it's almost a little bit like bullying and trying to change your mind. I don't know where it comes from a lot of times. There's no, I mean, I've been right in the middle of a lot of all this stuff, and I feel like there's good points on all over on every side, and to be so extreme to me seems irresponsible almost,
Yeah,
and certainly
I guess
counterproductive.
That's my thing. It's counterproductive and a waste of time. Like, I generally think that if you don't feel like you can contribute to something in a positive way, that's either going to positively impact other people or positively impact yourself, then you're wasting not only your time, but everyone else's time. So if you're going to be a part of all these random groups they have, and your only purpose is to shine negativity, pessimism, fear, shame, and guilt, then kindly show yourself the door and leave the group, because you're doing no one a favor. All you're doing is creating more anxiety and hurting other people who are trying to be positive and figure out their own thing. And then the only thing you're doing for yourself is reaffirming your own feelings about your own reality. No one's growing and no one's getting anything positive out of it. If I don't have anything positive to really like contribute, then I feel like why? Then I'm just better off. You know what? I'm just better off listening and maybe just try to figure out. Oh, maybe I could learn some. Maybe I could do this. It's like people tend to want to talk so loudly that they are like basically make their their ability to hear obsolete. And so hey, there's nothing wrong with just listening and not commenting. Like Herm Edwards, he's like, just don't hit send. Just don't hit send. There have been many times where I've like written and written and written on like a comment to somewhere, and I got all the way to the end, and I'm like, should I hit send? Should I hit send? Should I hit send? Should I hit send? I'm like, delete it, go somewhere else. This is a total waste of time, because it really, like, when you think about the how valuable our time is anyway, that we choose to waste it doing these things that do nothing but provide and produce negativity or pessimism or dragging someone into your own negative thought process. Like, people love to do that because misery loves company. That's just a fact. Misery loves company. They want you, like, that was like one of the things that I really learned as I got sober. It was like, did I really have friends before all this, or did I just have acquaintances who didn't really care what I was doing? I mean, obviously you're still around, so you matter. But for the most part, like, I hung around people that I wasn't really interested in getting deep with. You and I had deep conversations way before I got sober and all kinds of things. That's how we got here. But for the most part, everyone else is kind of like surface level, because I didn't want to get too close and I wasn't really, I was miserable. And so I wanted to be around people who would accept me in my own misery and not really hold me accountable or say anything. And I think people do that in social media. I think that people do that in life. They want to surround themselves with people and in groups that won't hold them accountable, that won't challenge them, and and is like to be part of that negativity. So I feel like, especially like right now, when people can be so isolated and are constricted in so many ways, even if they don't want to be, because every state has a different, reopening process, and you see other people outliving their lives, and it's either, oh my gosh, your state is so, progressive and aggressive that you're going to ruin everything for the rest of us, or shame on you for not doing this and this, and you should be protecting here. And I think that's very easy to say if you have your own personal restrictions where you don't have a choice. And so I think it's counterproductive for everyone to not just be positive and support people. And as long as they're being positive, I don't find much support or um, compassion in for people who just constantly try to be negative and bring people down. I see no value in it. And I think that's just important. I think it's important in life. I think it's important to surround you, because I've never been hurt or held back from someone that's consistently encouraging and positive, ever. I can't find a time in my entire life where I've been around someone who's so positive and so encouraging and so uplifting that I'd be like, you know what? I don't know, man. This person might be an overall net negative in my life. No, you never think that. But then you look back through your life and you think about friends you've had, or even family members or coworkers, and you think, man, I kind of think this person's just kind of like dragging me down. Like, you get caught up in it. People do that. They get caught up in talking bad about people and shaming people and doing whatever. And then I think you kind of step back when you distance yourself from that, and you think, man, like, that's not me. I'm just getting wrapped up and caught up in it. Nobody's perfect. I've gotten caught up in that stuff before. But I think recognizing it and thinking, all right, I can be part of the answer, I can be part of the solution, and be positive and be encouraging. And I can also be constructive, and if I have criticism, and doing it in a way that's not shameful to other people. That doesn't say that it's not always, like you said, there's a middle ground. It's not always you're totally wrong and I'm totally right. Because anyone who says that is just is cannot be convinced of anything other, because they're not
Yeah.
listening. They're just telling you
Yeah.
what they already know about you and themselves. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I don't want to get off on a huge tangent today, as we're already 20 minutes in. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. And I personally have been going through. It's been a difficult training time for me, and it's been so I keep thinking about, it's like when I said that about Ken Hammond, as far as it'll be good to hear like some truths about what's going on, because we sort of sit in our own world, and even this podcast, it's really nice to be able to talk to you. We it's just really a grounding mechanism, I think, for both of us in a lot of ways, and we keep trying to virtually connect with people and whatnot. But it's been a weird year because we've gone a long time without racing, right? And we've gone a long time without getting together with people, without camps, with all kinds of stuff like that. And it just never seems to get easier. And I just think we're moving into that time when there's probably a little bit of anxiety going on and anxiousness, certainly, to get into the racing and get back to sort of normal. And we don't want to like put the gas on the pedal too hard, but we do. So I don't know. What's the sense that you're kind of getting from athletes as far as is it kind of pulling the reins back a little bit? Are they just ready to go, or are they
I
I
think
just think,
I
yeah,
think everyone's different, and I do. I totally believe that, and I think this is true with most people. I know it's been true with us, personally, as like a family. Hayden's been back in daycare, and we went out to eat at a restaurant on like Tuesday, for and while like I think things are going to continue to trickle into our lives that we think are going to make us feel normal, but then we walk into this restaurant and like it's like, of course, it's the usual Bruce family dinner time at like 5:15, um
yeah.
and
Sorry, we're not
yeah, it
open
is.
yet, sir.
I know, like, so we're not. It's like we're no longer serving brunch. Like, you can come back at 7, and we roll in there, and they no longer doing menus. No menus. All the staff has the the face masks on. They take us to our table. We're one of only like 3 people inside, 3 tables inside. They've taken tables out. The waiter has their server on. You scan the little barcode on the table to get your menu. There's actually more people outside, but so you think like, oh, we're gonna feel more normal. We're gonna go out to eat, and it'll feel different, and then you're still reminded of what's going on and how things have drastically changed in a lot of ways. I mean, it seems it's not normal. But I guess routine is probably a much better word to phrase things, that this is not the new normal. This is just our current routine. We need to get in a routine of doing these things, of still, practicing, healthy things to do to prevent the spread of disease. We should still, do things that are responsible. This is our new current routine. I don't believe this is the new normal in terms of the rest of the next 30 years of our lives. But I think with training, it's kind of the same thing. And it's also very dependent on where you live. Some athletes are still on massive lockdown. Like, they can't do anything. They've had pools closed for the year. They've had gyms closed. They've said they're not opening schools till after, January, like, so it's also very relative to where you are. And you feel that, which is true of all things life and all things training. We live in our own reality, and what we say and what we do and how we act and the things that we, kind of express, those are representative of our own reality, not yours, but ours. Same thing for this podcast. Mike and I talk twice a week for an hour each time, and what we're doing is we are just talking specifically about our version of our own reality. And we talk that out loud, and hopefully you can. And I'm sure some days you're like, I have no idea what these guys are talking about. This couldn't be any further from the truth, or what I believe, or where I'm at in my life. But then some days our realities might mix, and they might match perfectly like a puzzle piece. And you're like, oh, that's totally me. Like, I get that. And so I think everyone with life and training is in their own reality, and that's how we're judging it. And it's more hard, it's more difficult. You've had athletes race already, and they've had all these new procedures and practices put in place. But I think what athletes are looking for the most is to be allowed to establish this new routine, because I think what we all need to understand is that racing, at least for the short term, is going to look very, very different. And I don't necessarily think it's the anxiety. I'm sure it is for some. Some people will, and I think it's rightfully so, because it's your own reality. It's your own, people have anxiety and personal experiences that cause them to feel, specific ways about different things. So I think that's normal, and that's perfectly fine. But I think what we're all really craving is, please allow me to get back and to find a routine in this new era that we're in. It's not a new normal, but triathletes and athletes in general that are endurance athletes, or just even professionals in all different sports, you are creatures of habit. You like things in order, you like for things to be predictable, you like to have control. In the last 3 months, you've had the rug ripped out from under your feet, and you've fallen on your old keister, and you're thinking, when can I get back up and feel in control again? Yes, will there be, do I have to, even like little small things, like I'm noticing with my athletes, like you can sense a level of frustration that the pool's open, yay, 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 and your first I get to go swim, and then it's different layers of the things you need to do in order to go swim. You've got to go reserve your lane. It's only for 45 minutes. You have to get in and out. The locker rooms aren't open. Like, there are these different levels. And so I think what we're all craving, at least for me, what I'm craving, I think what a lot of athletes are, is like an opportunity to reestablish a pattern, to reestablish a routine, something they can commit to and they can see themselves doing without interruption, without, a closing, Monday through Sunday every week. Because then what they can do is they can see themselves doing that for weeks and months and the year. I don't think it has anything to do with these gigantic restrictions. I just think it's about people wanting an opportunity to get in a routine that they had back before, because a lot of athletes have fallen way off the wagon. It's not because they lacked or didn't have certain opportunities at their disposal. Everyone can still run. Everyone could ride on their trainer. You couldn't go swim, but you could still be a part of this, but it was their routine that was interrupted. It was their pattern of behavior that was interrupted. And now that's what most people are struggling with, is trying to re-grasp a handle on what is that going to look like. In order for me to figure out what it looks like, I have to do it repetitively. I need to get in a groove. And triathletes are historically very inflexible in terms of just being flexible with their life, being flexible with their week, being flexible with their sessions, moving things around, and just going day to day. A lot of athletes just don't thrive under those conditions. And those athletes who have to have things perfect or perfectly aligned in their own routine are the ones that are seemingly struggling. And on the other end, the athletes that are really thriving right now are the ones that are the chameleons. They're able to adapt. They're able to change. They're able to see, okay, well, I can still be exactly who I am, but I'm no longer doing it A through, Z in order. I'm doing G, B, L, F in any different order, but I'm still making it work. And I think that is where a lot of athletes are either succeeding right now, or a lot of athletes are struggling right now.
I get that. I'm definitely struggling. It's one of these things where I keep thinking I might want to do a full this year, and I haven't swam since this year. I haven't swam this year probably. Um, and you kind of get in your head, you're like, yeah, because I'm not a pattern guy, right? As you know, I'm sort of like not a routine guy, and it's sort of like
Right. Your
this,
pattern is to not have a pattern. That's
right?
basically, but you're still a
And
pattern. It's just not
I'm a
pattern.
variety as a spice of life guy, but this is not the kind of variety I've really been looking for, I guess. But so I'm in that. I'm definitely in what you've been saying all along, and the people that have been listening and doing that are probably in pretty good shape to make that adjustment if and when their race comes back and they're going to be ready to go. But there's people like me that have been kind of like dipping toes in different places and trying to stick around and hang around, and they're wondering if they can do it. And I'm definitely at a point of no return right now if I want to start doing like a late. And I've said that I've been there a few times, but it's really interesting because in a lot of ways I don't even know what kind of shape I'm in. I've been riding a lot and I haven't swam. I've been doing a lot of push-ups. I haven't been able to run because of my heel. It's just a weird, and I'm in Wisconsin. The weather's absolutely perfect today, and all I want to do is run, and I don't know if I can. And I've been kind of literally running like a quarter mile 3 times a day just to get my, I don't trying anything to get my my heel or that plantar fasciitis thing going in the right direction, and it may be helping. I don't know, but it's sort of like a lot of times I feel like, you almost need some races or some of these camps that we do, or just a grouping of people to get together and get that sort of general energy with the sport going.
Well,
It's
we get caught up in our own head,
yeah,
and like I think we get swept up in that. There's two things that really stuck out to me. What you're talking about is that, yeah, are you traditionally like a variety guy? Yeah, but I've also think but what you are is you're more of a multiple choice guy. You're like, yeah, I could probably do A and C today. And then every day you have options. You like to have those options, right? Like you just, well, today sounds like a B day. I'll hop on the bike. Or today sounds like a C day. I guess I'll go swim. Like you like to have those options. But recently you've been restricted down to basically like one or zero. So you've
yeah,
actually found yourself pushed into a direction where most athletes feel most comfortable is they're more of A or B, true or false. This is how it's going to go today, or it's not going to go today. And what we've all kind of been forced into is the short answer, which it's like everyone's like worst, nightmare of a test. It's like you're like, wait a minute, what do you mean I have to like short answer this? Like I'm not interested. I am not interested in a short answer. I at least need like A through D or multiple choice or all the above, or I need like true or false. Like just give me a standard. I don't need short answer. Nobody has time for that. But that's what we found ourselves in. We found ourselves waking up every day asking ourselves a question: how are we going to figure this out? How are we gonna run on the treadmill? Are we gonna run outside? Are we gonna hop in our trainer? Are we gonna go find a place to go? We can't swim. If we do swim, we have to find a place to do it. And how is this gonna fit? Because what I also don't know is what the end game is gonna be. I know my race is supposed to be happening, but all these races are getting canceled. I know this race is currently, we have no word for them, so I'm kind of training in no man's land. My motivation is there, but I don't even know if it's real because I don't know if the race is real. There's just like so
yeah,
many things that we found ourselves in, and then we're unfortunate, like you said, we're also stuck in our own heads in terms of, and this is, again, like I think one of the great benefits of having a coach is that you don't just have someone who puts in your training. You have a life and a racing and a training advocate. They are here to help you figure out these problems. They are here to help you figure out what's next or what direction to go or to peel it back, or most oftentimes, let's just hold on for a minute. Like, I know you're like, I had a bunch of questions this week because specifically around Ironman Wisconsin, because the I guess the city or the state released like some guidelines basically for the rest of the year, and basically people are reading into those as well. There's not going to be a race, and so you're like, well, is there not going to be a race? And if I should I go ahead and transfer to a different race, or should I just kind of throw the year all together because I'm not going to have access to swimming? And for the most part, my answer was for every single one of them was, let's just hang tight. I know it's frustrating. I know it's so not fun to have, because it almost feels, for so many people, like they love to post on social media, the date of their race that's coming up. That's their profile picture. They're bipped up,
yeah.
and if
Countdown.
the countdown, and if they did that now, they almost feel like they'd be being um, disingenuous. Like, yeah, September 9th, 2020 may or may not happen, but just don't bother. And so you don't see people doing that even as much. It's like it's a cascade effect, and but for the most part, we is if we've been taught anything the last 3 or 4 months, it's like we cannot predict the future. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next. Like, if you asked me a month and a half ago if I thought month two was going to happen, I would have said yes, but it would have been like, that's my optimism, realist, version of myself. But then if you had asked me like, okay, well, tell me why you think it might not happen, I probably would have had the same amount of answers. But here we are. The race is probably going to happen. Lubbock's going to happen in 3 weeks, like, or 2 weeks. We're there, and so I think it's hard to stay. It's hard to hang tight. But I think that's always the best course of action, if you can do it, is to think, you know what, I might not know, but the truth of the matter is that you don't know anyway. Something could happen in your life. You could get injured. Training could go great. Training could go poor. But, for the most part, having your eye on the prize is always going to get you further down the road than having your eye on nothing, or having your eye on a moving target. It's like you have to decide what you want to do and who you want to be right now. And it's hard and it's difficult. And athletes are struggling with it in terms of trying to figure things out, trying to figure out what opportunity is right, trying to figure out what's safe, trying to figure out what's the best move for them as an athlete, what's the best move for them for their professional lives and for their family and their loved ones. Like, it's a lot to think about, and triathletes, oftentimes get a bad rap for being, selfish, but that's I don't think that's the case. They're thinking through this, all right. I need to take care of myself, but I also have to take care of others. And that's a different conversation, than most triathletes have ever had with themselves. And so I think when you look at training and being isolated and not having other people to feed off of with their positive energy, all you're left to do is feel yourself in those negative thoughts or those injuries or those niggles. And like, listen, people are injured and that's a big thing, but there is also a huge difference in having a slight discomfort and being injured or being in pain or being or hurting a little bit. Like there's huge difference. And I think when we kind of are left up to our own devices, we always veer towards it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse, and then you end up doing nothing, which is you're not healing and you're also not hurting. So you're just kind of staying the exact same. And so I think what you said about I'm not sure if like when you get where we have camp in 2 weeks, um, is like you just get caught up in positive energy, and yeah, I'm not going to go down like the big rabbit hole of like positive energy and its impact on you as a person with the science. And I'm not going to be like some energy guru and start sending out C26 universal core of the earth bracelets like Ben Greenfield. But what I am going to say is that positive, being around positive people, they say you are the sum of the 5 people you're closest to. Well, for the last 3 months, that hasn't been an option. We've been restricted to living in our house with your spouse, your kids, a lot of you, like you, with yourself alone. You don't have the impact, you don't have the positive influence of those other 4 people. So you're kind of left thinking and questioning and wondering and trying to figure things out. And I think we always kind of tend to go back towards negative. Like I cannot express the change in my own personality and my own stress level and my own ability to be positive these last 2 weeks versus the previous 3 months. I mean, and all kidding aside with like Hayden going back to daycare, yes, that was a huge stress reliever, but it was just the removal of this huge stressor and feeling restricted that I was able to get out of the house, to be around more people, even if I'm not sitting down with a coffee shop having like a long, heartfelt discussion about whatever, but just seeing people and interacting and getting that energy of getting out of yourself, getting out of your mind, because you can be sitting by yourself. That's what I was doing the last 3 months with the hub coming along and the pandemic and no races coming and athletes worrying. It's like it's a lot to handle. So I think when you're condensed and you're confined to that, just to that small little bubble, it's gonna combust. There's only so much pressure in a confined space that we can all handle, and that goes with life and that goes with training. But when you get out of that, and when you get outside and do things, you get this energy of being around people that there is more hope, there is more optimism, and it'll take you down different avenues. And all of a sudden, you look around, and you think, "Oh, wait, I've been sitting here alone, isolated for the last 3 months, only thinking there were 2 doors." And then you get out and you talk to people, and you get more insight, and you get more, energy. I mean, like the energy that I got just from meeting with you and Sam the other day lasted me for like 2 weeks. It was
Yeah,
what, like an hour and a half,
yeah,
but it
I
was
know.
such an enlightening time to be like, this is what it's like to be around people, to see positivity, to feel optimism, and instead of these 2 doors that was like pass or fail, success or no success, or stress or just less stress, it was 100 doors. And all I could do was see the positivity and the positive outcomes in all of them. And I think it's an important thing for us all to understand as we get wrapped up in our own self right now, and we're restricted to, just even if you're able to go outside and you're able to go to work or able to go to a gym, they're restricting group classes, and you go to the gym, you basically have to keep your head down, and you're out in public by yourself. It's like you're still in your own bubble. You can't really talk to people or get that connection. And or if you go to work, you're probably like confined to like a small, like, airtight, safe, secured cubicle where you can't converse with anybody. So you still feel alone and isolated. And this has been like the sentiment of people who are the people that are coming to camp. They've basically all said, "Yeah, I'm excited to swim, but I just want to see other people." Like the
I know,
most,
right?
like the
Yeah,
legit is like, I don't even care if we work out. The questions have been 5%. What time are we going to work out? What are we going to do? Where are we open water swimming? Where's our pool session? The other 95% of it has been, do we get to eat together? Do we get to hang out in between, in between meals? Because that's everyone's favorite time because it's about connecting with people, and the effect that that has on your life is, I don't think you cannot put a value on it.
No, you can't. And I actually saw that firsthand this weekend too. After meeting with you, I was fired up. And then I came up to Wisconsin, and my buddy's got a really nice lake house, and three of my high school friends met up there, and we just kind of hung out for 2 days. And I have this theory about pain. Like what I'm going through with plantar fasciitis. A lot of times it's IT bands, and not serious injuries, but just nagging, like you were talking about, discomforts and things like that. And I've always tell people, yeah, just don't think about it. Just don't think about it, because I really believe that. But like you're saying, when you're isolated, it's almost like that's your crystallized thought pattern. It always goes back to that. Like, especially if you're out running by yourself or doing whatever. But this weekend I was up there with these guys. I wasn't training or anything, but we are just hanging out and walking around and going on to the lake and doing all kinds of stuff. I never even thought about it, really. It really wasn't. It was there occasionally, but it's so weird how just people can kind of take you out of it. It's almost like a comfort blanket or security blanket or something. When you're with people, it just feels like, yeah, more possible. Or getting out of your head, it's so much more difficult when you're always quarantined and just kind of in the same loop every day. And that's why getting out of your comfort zone is so important. It's just for me, it's always just an energy thing, and something that can kind of push you beyond that stagnant point or something. And I think that when we have these camps, and like you're saying, we get exhausted, but it charges us up for weeks. And that's like a real thing. And going to races and doing races. And even though you're exhausted after your race, you're just a different person. How we talk about, you could just struggle mightily all day, but come down that finish line. And then the minute you cross that Ironman finish line or a half finish line or whatever, even at the Olympics, sometimes it's like every worry in the world is gone in that moment. And I think we have to experience those groups of connection to kind of help us alleviate that worry, or that, you know what I mean? Like it's just that festering in your own head. You're kind of making up your own story all the time, but it's not true.
I think all of our stories are better told with multiple ghostwriters. It's like if we're left to our own devices, we're probably either going to totally overplay our role in life, or we're going to overplay all the negative things. You need people that are around you to help you be more objective, because it's not just about being around people who are super positive and displaying all this optimism, and they're just on fire for life. It's also being around people who have been through the same struggles that you have been, like that. Like I referenced being in recovery a lot, and being in these rooms in AA, and that's the energy that you have. And that's the energy that we have at these camps, especially for athletes that come not knowing anybody, and they come with these best friends. Is that like for A, you walk in a room and there might be 50 strangers that you've never met ever, but there's this underlying thing of we have all the same struggle, and with
Yeah.
that comes unbelievable comfort and the ability to be vulnerable and the ability to open up, but also the ability to feel positive and empowered that you can do this. Because I remember, like, one of the first few meetings I came in, like the very first meeting I had was on a Wednesday night. Yeah, I got like my 24-hour chip for being sober for 24 hours. I'll be going on 7 years this November. And then there's a guy that stood up in that room that was talking, and he had 18 years, and I just could not fathom doing that at that point in my time, obviously. But what you saw was someone with the same struggles being successful, not perfect, but persevering. And when you surround yourself with people, and like the people that come to the camp in the month, is is it, and I think what they're trying to articulate or get through is like, yes, is the training important? Yeah, that's why we're coming. It's fun. But for the most part, we want to feel the energy around people who we know have all been going through the same things the last 3 months. And that's true. We've had these camps without a pandemic. Like that's still everyone's favorite thing. Like people come for the coaching, and they come like 4 years in a row. So for somehow this year because of the people. It's the people make the experience, and the people make every experience. And it's about who you're around and who you surround yourself with, and that's what these people do, where you're training with a group, or you're with have access to people who are in an online community, whatever it is. It's like and you feel comfort in the fact that they know what you're talking about, they know your struggles, and that's also a huge benefit to people who you know basically train solo. Like we have our own closed active athlete group, and like and I think that was like the huge part of like the 10K, why it was so successful and athletes loved it so much, was that like you go, like your immediate family might pretend like they care about your triathloning, but they don't care. They just kind of put up with it. It's like they're just kind of there. No one on your street know what you do. No, excuse me, knows what you do. Your family couldn't care less. They're like, are you still doing those, Spartan color events where you run and then you swim, and they don't care. So you need people not just to care, but you need people for the most part just to understand what it is you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, why some of the days are so hard, what you're having to focus on, the hours that go into it, the detail. Like that's why people um gravitate towards teams and communities, is because we all speak the same language, and that language doesn't have to be tri-gear or the fastest zip wheels. Well, for the most part, what it needs to be is we all have this underlying theme of we want to get better. We're all in this together, and we're doing it, and we're using triathlon as an avenue to pursue these interests in our own life. And you need that with people, and you need it with training. People who are very alone and very isolated and don't go out and do something, people, they they suffer. They suffer from that group mentality of not just being pushed physically, but the emotional and mental support you can get from other people that are in your same dugout.
Hmm. That's what we've started. That's how we've always tried to be. I think it's this welcoming thing because the people can train solo and they get in their own heads. They don't know, they feel like an outsider sometimes. I've been there. We've all done it. On a macro level, I think that's kind of the issue with society in general is that, like you said, we're all just trying to get better, feel better. I'm talking about humanity, really, and be clear and be happy, right? And so when you go into those AA meetings, you guys have an obvious common thread that you said that you walk in there and you're like, wow, everybody understands where I've been and understands what I'm doing. I wish we could do that more on a human level. It's like we're all humans that are just trying to, feel good and be better and be happy and things like that. And when that's why we welcome people, and we've heard it so many times from other people outside of the group that, man, your athletes are all just so cool and kind and welcoming, and that doesn't always happen even in triathlon. And that's what I would love to see kind of fade away too, that hey, it's not about who's going to win this race. It's about people out there just trying to feel better and be happier and healthier. And I know it's just like a simplistic way to look at it, but really at the core, that's kind of what it is. It's like, and we have triathlon in common, so there should be a common bond. On the surface, we go through a lot of the same experiences, just in different weather conditions or different locations, but it's the same experience. And I love that we get to talk about these things because I think they're important. And I think that we all have to realize that we're in the same boat and we're just trying to get, level it out. And uh, that's, I guess, the nexus of what I've been trying to say is it really helps when there's races. It's like, because it's a forced community event. And you know how it is. You get there and it's just so nice to be walking around. You really feel free
Hmm.
at the expo. And it's like, wow, everyone here, there's just a bunch of energy and everybody's coming together. And we've all been sort of focused on the same thing and we all want to just show it out. And it's really nice to have that experience. And it's coming back. It's just been a weird sit and hold and
Well,
just keep.
it's the power of the group, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I was harping so, maybe harshly in the beginning about people who were so negative in these groups and they should just leave, is that, the power of the group should be positive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the huge things about surrounding yourself with, great people. And that, people say you're the sum of the five, you're the sum of the five people you're around the most, is that, you know, because your group, your core, your team, the people you're around, like, they can tip the scale,
Yep.
and they can tip it one way or the other. If you're having a super down day and you just feel like you're not doing anything positive, you're not doing anything good, then guess what? They could tip the scale back even, or even show you more positivity and bring you out of it. Versus if you're alone, guess what? The scale is going to stay down. Like, and just we all, I think we, no matter what, like, no matter where you think you are in your athletic life cycle, if you're at the back of the pack, if you're at the front of the pack, whatever, is that we all have an opportunity to make an impact. You're going, whether you like it or not, you're going to make an impact, and you get to choose with your actions, with your words, with with being humble, with being generous. Like, you get to choose whether your impact is going to be a positive impact or a negative impact. And I think that's something that we all kind of need to remind ourselves with. And it's not one of those where, oh, well, I'm just the back of the pack and nobody will notice me, and I have not much to offer, or I'm going to be one of the first five people to cross the finish line. I can't really relate to anyone else. Well, it's the little things that matter. It's going out of your way to be positive. It's helping a person who looks around and is looking like they have no idea what's going on. And we all know that look. You're in transition, you're on your rack, and you see that person who's looking around with like a deer in the headlights look, and they can't say it because they're scared and nervous or anxious or they're intimidated, but they have like 9 zillion questions to ask because they don't know the answer to. Like, we all see those people, and the best thing you can do is like, hey man, you ready to have fun? Are you gonna have fun today, or how you doing? And then it like opens up this cascade of like, I'm not really sure, like I've never pumped up my own tires, or I don't know what to do. So and like, instead of shaming them into, well, you should already know this, or I use, like, it just, be helpful, be positive, because you're going to impact that person's day positively or negatively. They're either going to walk away from the race with a memory of, man, I had a great race today, but that guy was like a total dick to me, and I don't want to ever do this again, because it's the group, it's the people. Like, you don't get the same feeling from sitting in your pain cave doing a virtual race as you do getting and feeling the energy around people. You just don't get it. And it's because of the experience is made by the people. Even if you're going to be 6 feet apart in transition, or there's not going to be as many spectators, there is still energy in people. As long as they're not, like 50 yards away, they're still in your sphere of influence. And I think that's something just very, very important to remember and remind ourselves of as we get back in these races, is that stop being so negative and stop looking at, all the faults to find with this new way of racing for right now. Is look for the positive. Be a person who's trying to, affect positive change, and be encouraging and be positive, because that's impactful. And we can either make this as horrible and as frustrating and as negative of a process as possible, or we can show gratitude. We can be thankful. We can see it as an opportunity to just be present and be thankful for our health, and that we get to go out there and push ourselves. The rest of it just doesn't matter that much. We think it does, but in the moment, it just doesn't matter that much. It might matter to us, but but in a very unselfish way, you should be more concerned about how it matters to the whole. Because if it doesn't matter, and we talk like this, in a negative way, or we're not helpful, then you're no longer going to have people to positively impact. Because the races aren't going to be around, people aren't going to be out there, the races are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you're going to be confined to only participating amongst yourself,
Mhm.
and that does no one any good.
Yeah, in a way, I feel like we have a responsibility to keep that positive energy going because of what you just said right there, right? We're all in a flux in a way, and there's a lot of unknowns about racing and the future of racing and all that sort of stuff. Let's take it, and it's sort of like just showing up and making the best of what we got right now to keep it going and turn it around and make it even better. And I think we have that power. rather than just putting our heads in the sand and walking away. And it's sort of like, let's go support the local business that's had some struggles. And even though we don't really want to go out to eat, I don't know. It's just like take that extra step and give your best energy at all times when we go to these things, because the sport needs it right now too.
100%.
Well, that works for me, man. How you feel good
Works
about
for
it?
you? Yeah, man. Why not?
Yeah.
Stay flexible.
Stay flexible.
Stay
Started
flexible.
off with a little way, and then we ended positive, strong, negative split, like we always say, I think.
That's right. Sometimes it starts with MTV Unplugged. Sometimes it starts with baseball. Sometimes it starts with, me telling people to quit being so damn negative in these Facebook groups.
It's all
Hey, it's just unfiltered. It's what we're thinking. It's what we're feeling. And, hopefully you got something positive out of today. And again, as always, we do appreciate you tuning in and giving us your time. We know you have a jabillion choices and who you listen to and the time that you have each day, because your time is valuable. So if you made it all the way to the end, thanks. And we hope you got some positive out of it. If you want to check out our website, you are more than welcome to. In fact, encouraged. We have our website, which is C26Triathlon.com. It has all things camps, coaching, and our awesome community of athletes that is consistently highlighted. And then you can also find more info on our online hub as well, which is a great resource that Mike continues to churn out positive, awesome content for you to consume.
and it's just starting, let me tell you that.
Yeah, I know.
When we
Yeah,
get down to the hub, we've got big plans.
yeah, it's chipping away.
Get in there now.
Hurrying slowly. And if you have any questions, hey, reach out to Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com, or if you have any questions for me directly, C26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it, man.
You got it, dude.
I'm gonna go out for my quarter-mile run.
Yeah, enjoy.
All right, we'll take it easy, bud.
All right, man. See you, dude.